We're going south of the border, y'all. BWR Mexico. This is the third year it's happened and the third year that I've made it down there to race it. I like this event, even though it does fall in a weird time of the year. I always have fun at this race, and I've made it a staple event at the end of my calendar. You'll already notice the familiar colors of Ian Boswell, another American that's made it south of the border for this race. And as you may know, if you listen to the BonkBros podcast, I was trying to swoon Ian all weekend to try to get a Wahoo sponsorship. And I'm proud to announce Wahoo is now the proud supporter of Lunchbox Racing. Thanks, Ian. It's kind of funny how as soon as the whistle is blown and the race is underway and we've concluded that neutral rollout, everybody just starts sprinting. Like literally, is this a cyclocross race? Come on. Dizzle Kibitz number 19, pacing is dead. Only about a mile or two into the race, we turn onto a dirt road only to find that a massive gate has been closed. And it is chaos as we try to throw our bikes over the fence, it's tall, and then climb over the fence with our bodies. Ian is tall enough to where he's able to throw his bike over the barbed wire fence to our left, and then he climbs over the gate, and like a true friend, he helps me get my bike over the gate and then runs to his bike, and the race is still on. It was crazy. And it's pretty clear that the front group that got their bikes and their bodies over the fence the fastest were not waiting around. I don't think they were attacking or even going hard. I think they were kind of soft pedaling, but it was pretty clear that they weren't waiting either. I kind of thought that everybody was gonna regroup and we were gonna restart the race after everybody got over the fence, but that didn't happen. And the front group was already down to only 20 people, the 20 fastest people to get over the gate, which was, I guess, good in the grand scheme of things. Being aware of your biggest threats in a race is important information to have beforehand. For me, I knew that there were 3 riders I needed to mark throughout this race. Uli Castillo, last year's winner, Gerardo Ulloa, Mexican mountain bike sensation, and of course, Ian. Dizzle Kibitz number 31, know your competition. As we go into the first really technical off-road section, I find myself a bit further back than I'd like, so I quickly move my way to the front of the race and actually end up leading through most of this section. Last year, I made the mistake of being too far back in the group, and Uli Castillo was able to attack with a teammate and get off the front early, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was not gonna let that happen again. Both Uli and Gerardo have represented Mexico at the Olympics and have multiple national titles between the two of them. Ian has also raced in the World Tour for many years, having competed in all 3 of the Grand Tours. And then there's me, 2-time Dust Bowl champ. I've got my work cut out. Ian gives me a little bit of a heads up that there is a puddle on the course coming up, and it turns out to be a lake. And I'm also glad that I'm still on the front through this section as well. This flowy downhill section was a bit of a mountain bike track, and it was the most fun part of the course. Uli isn't waiting around for anybody and is on the gas as soon as we hit the pavement, forcing everybody behind to chase pretty hard. My game plan for the race was to let the other guys dictate the pace for the first half of the race, and then maybe I would try to conserve as many matches as possible so that I could light it up on the final climbs that come around mile 70. Ian and one of Uli's teammates have a slight gap off the front, and I don't necessarily want to pull them back. One, because I want that Wahoo sponsorship, and two, because I want the other guys in the group to do more work than me. And so in this situation, I could consider Ian a teammate. And so instead of pulling through the pace line like normal, I slowly drift over to the neutral car and take a feed. I did need some water anyways, so it was good timing to do both of these things, but it didn't really matter because we ended up catching Ian and the other guy shortly after this. The strong mountain biker Ulloa is going to rip it up this really steep climb, and he ends up with a little bit of a gap, but luckily Uli welds it back together and I find myself with these two Mexicans. And I'm pretty gassed at this point, so I skip a pull. Sue me. But I also figured that Ian was chasing behind, and having Ian in this group of four was better for me just in case these two Mexicans decide to team up against me later on in the race. It'd be better for the numbers to be two Mexicans versus two Americans. If you haven't already noticed, racing through these little Mexican towns can be dicey and awesome. Uli drops his chain on a bumpy section of the course, and Ulloa does the friendly thing and pulls off to not push the pace. I do the strategic thing and go to the front and blitz it, because Uli is the strongest guy in the race. He won the race the year prior. He's a massive threat. And bike setup is a part of racing. If your bike fails you, maybe you should get a better bike setup. He was running a 2x, so if he drops his chain because he's running a 2x, that's on him for running a 2x. So I don't have an ethical problem with pushing the pace to make Uli burn a match to catch back up, because I know that that's going to play in my favor later on when I need him to be as slow and as tired as possible so that I can attack and get away at the end of the race. But it doesn't take long for him to catch back up anyways. Hopefully he burned a match in the process. Ulloa, the really good mountain bike guy, the one that went to the Olympics, is on the front through the most technical section of the course. And assuming he's going to push the pace through this section where his skill set most suits him, I'm a little nervous being behind Ian, who's a roadie and whose skill set does not exactly set him up for success through this part of the course. So I'm going to quickly pass Ian and get on Ulloa's wheel to prevent that gap from opening up. The group comes back together and there's about 6 of us as we get ready for the final climbs at the end of the race. We'll call this road the pre-climb. It's the false flat, super bumpy, cobbled road that leads us to the base of the real climb where it kicks up a bit steeper. My original plan was to push the pace and hopefully attack on the steeper part of the climb. However, I'm kind of hurting, but I'm hoping that everybody else is hurting more than me. However, I'm starting to doubt that I can actually make this plan work. And sure enough, my sensations are accurate, and I am quickly dropped at basically the bottom of this climb as Ulloa goes to the front and pushes the pace. And I watch as the 3 strongest riders in the race ride away from me, and my hopes of a podium finish are dashed. However, on the next descent, I catch and pass Ulloa, who seems to be having a mechanical, and my hopes of a podium are renewed. And not only that, but on the very next climb, I have Ian within sight. He's only 10 seconds up the road. I've got second place within grasp. However, this all quickly unravels as the gap to Ian goes out quite fast, and Ulloa catches me. I have to give everything I have just to hold his wheel for about 90 seconds before he drops me again. And now I go from thinking maybe I'll get second place to my podium hopes are again dashed. All right, here are the stats. 5 hours and 5 minutes was my race time, 278 was my TSS, 261 was my normalized power with a 0.69 intensity factor, and my average heart rate was 167. Now, because I did this race last year, we can almost do a direct comparison, although the course was slightly different this year, being about a mile further. Compared to last year, I was 5 watts higher for my normalized power, I was 4 beats lower for my average heart rate, and I went 0.3 miles per hour faster. So although I went from 2nd place to 4th place, all of my stats have increased, which seems to say I'm on the right track and I'm on a upward trajectory. I'll take it. If there was one race this year that I was the most grateful for the Lauf suspension fork, it was this race. When it comes to rough courses, this BWR Mexico course takes the cake. This is the first year that I have finished without blisters on my hands, thanks to the Lauf Segle. Here's the full bike setup. I raced my Lauf Segle with a 48 tooth chainring SRAM Explorer group set, along with the profile design super narrow Canter race bars. These are 28s in the tops and 36s in the drops. And then for tire choice, I went a little bit smaller than last year. Last year I raced mountain bike tires. This year I went with the 50 mil Schwalbe G1 RS with a slick down the middle with a little bit of tread on the sides. The reason for this was because I still wanted a wide tire that could absorb a lot of those bumps, but I also had that suspension fork that would help with the bump absorption as well. And there's a lot of pavement in this course, so I wanted to make up a little bit of speed on those paved sections by not running the mountain bike tires. Ulloa seemed to be the strongest guy in the race. He not only suffered that mechanical, but he also went on to catch back up to Uli, and they sprinted it out for the win at the end of the race. Uli ended up winning, Ulloa was second, Ian was third, and I crossed the line for fourth.